welcome to Open to Connect, where we talk about, connections and stories and hearing what people have been through. Often I'm talking to people about layoffs and whatnot, but this one's going to be a slightly different twist, and I'm so excited to have Jonathon Ready today. We met through a mentorship call that I do on Fridays, and someone invited him, and then we were talking. I heard his story, and I was like, you have to come on this podcast and share it. So, Jonathon, thank you so much for being here. I would love to just start off immediately with a little bit of an introduction on who you are and what do you do.
Thanks so much, Jacqueline. I'm really excited to be here. So I, like you, spent a long time at Microsoft. I was a product manager for 5 years there. And it was a place that I learned a lot, but I think like a lot of us, it's changed. And the thing that was interesting for me was that this was also an opportunity for me to do something that I've always wanted to do. It was it was a scary place, but leaving, not knowing what to do, and then eventually traveling the 24 countries and then starting my own company it's been a real journey. And I can't imagine explaining this to myself from a year ago when I was still kind of recovering from the like, oh my God, what did I just do? I just left this company that I felt so much like home.
That's a great even transition into some of your story is, I have the layoff experience from Microsoft, but you have the, I chose to do this. What led to that decision?
I think that for a lot of us, it's a bit more ambiguous than whether or not it's just layoff or choosing to leave. From my perspective, it was I think the company I entered was very different than the company I was working for in the last couple of years. There was this idea that, you're supposed to bring your whole self to work. I think that was always sort of like optimistic that that's something that you could do. But I think for a lot of us, we had this idea of like, maybe we can be a part of this company and also really fulfill ourselves in this way that, traditionally would be hard to do inside of a company. Mm-hmm. But I think one thing for a lot of people have realized is like, as the budgets have been tightening, as these goals have been changing so quickly for these companies. Sometimes you're on the receiving end of a layoff, but for a lot of other people, you're just on the receiving end of a big reduction in scope of kind of what you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. It's a weird place to be in that, so much is changing for the better in terms of like new technology, new interesting stuff that you can work on. But I think for most people inside of big tech, like the experience has been it's been a bit of a wake up call. You might have had a lot of latitude to go off and explore things in the past. But at least for me, it used to be we could look out a couple years in the future and sort of say like, how do we make what we're doing the best thing possible? And then we'd get a little bit of latitude in how we do that. But it became a lot more short-termism, looking out at most a quarter to sort of see what you can do. But for me, it just really laid bare just that dissonance between what I had always been drawn to, which is this more entrepreneurial, deciding for myself, building things that I thought were really important, and the short-termism. So I think that there's been a lot of people laid off, but there's been a lot of people who also just feel that the jobs have changed a lot, and how do they respond to it? For me, it was it became clear that what was the next step for me wasn't another job, and that was a really scary realization for me. It was it would have been so nice to be like, oh, like I have this, I don't have to change a lot, but I realized a big change needed to come, and that's what I did a year ago. I decided to leave, and I'm really proud of myself in retrospect for sticking to that gut feeling that what was right, but I really didn't know what I was doing. Right. I didn't. I had no idea.
Yeah, I like to refer what you're talking about is like there's this culture of kind of chasing shiny objects. Like you need to deliver something that somebody thinks is valuable, even if it's not always pulling in the most impactful, like deeply impactful long term. And I know that I would sometimes get very bogged down into oh, well, okay, this is what's praised versus this is what we should do. And sometimes feeling like that voice was taken away. So I totally relate to, and I think I relate to what you're saying. And I think it's because we're both entrepreneurs here, right? And it's, I don't know about you, but I always kind of see what possibilities there are, what could be if I just, and then I had the forced, if you just, and you had the, I'm going to do this now sort of thing. So let's go into what did you do next? This is one of the things that I was so excited about your story. So I can't wait to hear more about.
So I think one
What
thing
was
was
day
that,
one after you left?
yeah. Well, I think one thing that was tough for me was I knew I had to leave, and I knew I had to re-engage with uh, what was really, motivating me. But I think I didn't quite have the bravery to actually go out and do what I've ended up doing, which is start my own company. Like I kind of knew that that's what I wanted to do on some level, but on another level, I was like, the kind of people who start their own companies, they're really something. They're the cream of the crop. I don't know if that's me, but I don't know. It just this feeling became too much, and uh, I was really going more by feel than by any strategy at that point. So what was particularly resonant for me was this feeling of I need to do something new, and I there's certain things that were just so important to me that I hadn't engaged with for so many years that I realized that I had to do those things, and one of them was actually connecting with nature in the wild. So I had quit my job and I decided I'm going to go to these places that I've only ever dreamed of going to. And that's what I did. So I I planned a really ambitious trip. I ended up going to the Coral Triangle in Indonesia for over a month and just spending time scuba diving and on the shores and just seeing this completely different world of just octopus and manta rays the size of cars and all that. And it was something that just uh, it was so worth it. It was absolutely worth it. And I realized, okay, I'm going to keep doing this for a bit here. So I ended up going to Antarctica to go scuba diving under the ice. And
Like you just tapped on like every fear I have of like going underwater where it's cold. But yes, please.
well, I think the thing that people have a hard time with is their own self-limiting beliefs.
Mhm.
So for me, it was a kind of exposure therapy. It was here are some things that I've always been drawn to since I was a child, which was Antarctic waters, the ocean largely, and high alpine areas. But they're places that are a little. They're unforgiving. You really need to, prepare yourself. And so, for the instance of for Antarctica, I had to spend 2 months here in Seattle learning how to do ice diving. So going up to mountain lakes and then going beneath the ice because it doesn't freeze here in the Sound that often
Right.
to learn all the skills to turn that on and off. And then, I was ended up down in Antarctica and before you know it, you're under the ice there with the penguins, and it's unbelievable because just to get yourself so outside of your comfort zone, but into a place that feels so natural for you to be because it's some place that you've always dreamed of. Like I think that's something that people actually can give themselves a lot more of, because if you prioritize it. So um, the way I was able to do this was I took a lot of the skills I'd built up at Microsoft
Mhm.
and I applied them to figuring out how can I do some of these things that I dreamed most of. Because I think one thing that people kind of forget about when they're working these corporate jobs is just how many skills they are building
Mhm.
and how maybe they can apply those to something that they are really deeply passionate about. So, in my case, it was data analysis and understanding things like, fluctuations in prices and stuff. So I was able to um, on the most recent trip, I did about I did 3 months straight of Southeast Asia, Japan, Korea, um, Ethiopia, Tanzania, Italy, Norway, and this was 3 months, and the whole thing only cost me $7,000. But if I'd paid the tickets, the sticker price for those things, it would have been about $26,000. So it's just, you can use these skills that you learned inside of corporate for not just your career, but for your life. And I think that's something that really helps you re-engage with what you're doing.
I
I
love
think I
that.
think I'm sort of forgotten your question just because I'm remembering like just how worth it all that felt
Well,
for
I think
me.
I kind of interrupted on the whole, like you went underwater in Antarctica with like under ice underwater in Antarctica. And I'm like, wait, tell me about that. But I do love what you're talking about, because I know when I overcame a really long employment gap and then I'm in corporate world and everything felt so vastly new and different. And it's not that I didn't have all of the skills that I got from the time away from work. It just, they didn't feel as valuable at that time. So what do? You're in it, you learn it. And then now I see problems completely different than I used to. It's a lot more systematic to solve them. I say there's a take a deep breath, you'll get through it, show up the next day, because there was no out, right? So to your point, we've learned all these skills that add up to giving us the tools to try or do something else. That I love how you talked about the things that you've been drawn to your entire life. Like for me, it's coaching makes it any kind of coaching, mentorship, serving others, like on the ground. Like it doesn't feel like work. It's delightful, and travel is also in that bucket, which is probably why I was like, I have to hear your story. But it is that where you found that thing that you've always loved, and then you really just doubled down on it, and then used your skills to make it affordable, make it something you could accomplish. So once again, how many countries did you end up visiting? I heard we got a big list for the 3 months, but I know you had a very extensive list. You'd have to list
20,
them all. It was just, what was it,
24 over 12 months.
24 in a year.
Yeah.
And during that time, we were talking about getting to a startup point. Was it in that travel where the idea came, or did you go into the travel with an idea to start?
So when I quit, I thought that I kind of wanted to continue the same work that I'd been doing as my professional career, but maybe um, in a startup fashion. So I spent about 2 months after I quit working on this. And I figured I would work on this project, which was around data compression. And then I would turn that into a startup. And I figured since I'm gone, I'm going to simultaneously travel, and I'm going to try and turn this into a company. And after 2 months of being locked in my apartment trying to build this thing, all I'd accomplished was just being really depressed. I realized that it was something I really was passionate about at work, but it wasn't something I wanted to keep working on. And that was really scary for me, realizing that this thing that I'd been passionate about for years, and I now got to re-engage with more from, now that I'd left and I could work on it on my own, it wasn't something I wanted to work on. And that was so confusing for me, because it felt like I had this idea of this path I was going to take, but the path had just disappeared. And that's when I started really re-engaging with the dive training to get ready for Antarctica, because I said that's something I wanted to do. But I've actually found over the last 12 months that that's been something that's been very perennial for me. That you think you know what you're doing, you do it, and it's good that you did it, because sometimes it proves that that's not what you're supposed to be doing.
I had that experience when I was getting back into tech, and I took a whole class cohort on, server administration. In the middle of it, I'm like, I don't think I like this. But yeah, at least you had that clarity of having that moment. And I appreciate so much that you talked about just being in that really dark place, like in a depression. Because sometimes, as I'm learning, like trying to get something started, it's different than having a team. It's different than having a manager. It's different than all of these things. And the motivation has to come from within. And the roadblocks feel like major roadblocks, or the ideas get stuck in your mind. How's it going as far as getting things off the ground?
You know, it's funny because it's feeling pretty good right now, but it wasn't feeling good earlier. So I'm going to back up a little bit here to when I knew it was time to go. And I knew that the kind of path that I wanted to go down was probably going to take a couple years. So I needed to figure out, okay, how am I going to stretch my savings out for this period of time when I don't know that I'll be making any money? And what I ended up deciding to do was I moved into a much less expensive apartment. I was like, okay, great, halved the rent. That's good. Great start.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, all right, it's time to quit. And you want to know what happened? My apartment got burglarized.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I
Is
was
this right
ready.
after you moved into the new one?
Yeah. So like half my stuff, there was a storage locker in the basement of the unit. And I'd sort of half moved all of my stuff into there as we were getting ready to unbox it upstairs. And I guess someone had observed that I was moving in because they broke in and they stole everything.
You're like,
so
I didn't budget for this.
No. I mean, and it was also just such a, because at that point, all the things I'd owned were really like thoughtful. Like I was downsizing apartments, so I was thinking, what do I really want? What's really important to me? And then I was like, okay, well, I don't have that now. So I'm laughing about it now, but it was not funny.
Yeah.
It was so not funny. So I mean, I guess it just kind of goes to show how sometimes you just get this feeling where you're like, I don't know that this is a good idea, but I think I have to do this. So I guess it is a good idea. But I remember sitting in my mostly empty apartment and I was like, getting ready to go in to, put my notice in. I'm like, all right, I guess we're doing this. That was, oh gosh, that was such a weird moment for me. But, ended up getting some insurance money for all the stuff that lost, which I guess was good in the end. But, sometimes, life doesn't hold back when you're, even when you need it to. You just have to keep making the right decision. And gosh, I would not be able to laugh about this a year ago. That was so difficult.
I think that's one of the great things to even focus on, though, is when we're in that moment, everything can feel like a crisis. And there is an element of having to either just put one foot in front of the other, and or both. Just trust yourself that you've been through things so you can get through things and not let it sideline you completely. And I know a lot of people that have been laid off, they get into that space of, I don't know who my identity is right now because it was ripped away from me. Did you have any kind of identity crisis, or did it take a while to almost decompress from corporate world? As far as I know, when I was laid off, it took maybe a week before I actually could sleep through the night because I was worried I wasn't delivering enough for the next meeting on Monday. Right?
It's a kind of fear when you're making a transition like that I hadn't experienced before. Because you're right, like so much of your identity gets caught up in what you do. And then it was, well, I don't know what I'm doing. And for me, it was very hard to sleep. And I kept having these dreams that all of my teeth had fallen out. And I was just walking around with like empty gums. And it was just, I just remember waking up and then I couldn't sleep the rest of the night. Because I was like, I got really paranoid about my teeth and I started like really thinking about like, have I done the correct thing here? And I was like, I kind of went through the boxes and I'm like, man, I think my teeth are fine. I think they're all right.
Just so you know, I have had that dream many, many times, enough to where I had to find a dream book in a bookstore to say, what is happening here? Because I guess it represents a sense of loss. And I would have it more frequently when my husband was deploying in the military. But then I had that same thing happen after I was laid off again. And it was just like, oh, it is this deep-seated sense of loss, even if it's something where I'm like, I was really stressed out, and maybe this isn't the worst thing in the world. It's still that change in identity, right?
It's so ambiguous too,
Mhm,
because like I really loved my job at Microsoft, but
mhm,
it wasn't the right job for me.
mhm,
And I think it's really confusing. I think sometimes people feel the same way about romantic relationships, that they can really love someone and it's not the right person for them.
mhm,
And I think you can have the same thing at work too. And that's something I realized. Um, and I was like, how can both of these things be true? But they are, because you're losing a lot of things when you leave. Like, you're losing the income, which is terrifying. You're losing the social connections that you have there.
mhm,
But you're also losing a lot of hopes that you had for what the job could have been.
mhm,
So in my
mhm,
case, it was a lot of hopes that maybe I could be the person who makes Windows something that's really, really lovable, because I think it's kind of like lost a lot of its love. And I realized that, well, I'm leaving. I'm not going to be that person. I mean, it was so grandiose to think that that's what I wanted, but I think yeah, no, I think sometimes,
mhm.
and you kind of hope that someday certain people like your manager are gonna like finally recognize you in some way that they
We
hadn't
want you
really.
back.
It's not even like that. It's sort of just like um I think that like there's very specific things that like I wanted them to say, like I really value you in this way.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
it's not even about like whether or not you got a promotion or something. It's like I just I see you, and like
mhm,
because I think a lot of times when you don't get something from someone, you just kind of crave it more. And then whether it's like a romantic breakup or leaving a job, like I think part of the grief there, at least for me, is like just accepting like it's not going to get fixed. Like
mhm.
it's just over.
Yeah,
And
there's no sense of closure in it, really.
there isn't. I mean, I suppose I'm lucky in that regard that I got to kind of do it on my own terms. But
Mhm.
like a lot of people here, they get none of that. And um, I think it's really tough.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's really anything you can do that makes that easier. I think you've just got to feel it,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
then that's the only way out is through.
I had moments where I had this closet full of, like, T-shirts and swag that all just said Microsoft. I'm like, "What do they're still comfortable." It's like, I guess now I wear them for yard work.
I don't know if this is healthy, but I actually burned one of them.
Maybe that's the most healthy thing you could do.
I think it might have been. I was just like, I was so frustrated, and I was like, um, it was. I think it was. Yeah, it was just. Um, I cut it apart, and um, I took it to a bonfire, and it's not
There
very
you
good for
go.
the environment because I think it's polyester, but
Right, right. Well, um, I guess maybe I'll get a pass on this one. So tell me about what your startup is, if you want to talk a little bit more about what are you building and what makes you excited about it?
yeah. So kind of going from the conversation I had is when I went down to scuba dive Antarctica, I had realized that what I'd been working on most of my professional career wasn't what I wanted to keep working on.
Mhm,
And I didn't know what that meant, but I knew one thing that was really important to me was this feeling of um, being able to go to other places in the world and feel like you're welcome there. And like a part of that is like understanding like how the bus system works, so that you can actually get around and stuff like that. So what I was doing, and I think everyone else was doing at this time, is you just ask chat gpt for it.
mhm,
And I think I had a very different relationship with AI when I was working at Microsoft, because it sort of felt like this thing that was being forced upon us, and it wasn't something that was really beneficial to me. Um, but I started using it to organize a lot of my life while I was traveling. And I started building these little applications that would call into the OpenAI API to do things like to just sort of get general information, to run web searches and bring them back, to pull up my calendar. Just because it was really cool that it worked. And I remember I was on a flight out of Bogota in Colombia. And what happened was that I hadn't realized that in Colombia, the departure times are a lot. The boarding time, the gates close earlier than I realized. So I was walking towards it, and I was like, I still have 20 minutes or 30. It was more minutes than you'd think. And I got there, and the gates was closed, and I was like, oh no. And then I'm just like really upset. So I'm talking to this, like, basically just a collection of all my documents loaded into the context window of an AI. And it was like, cancel the flight right now. I'm like, I can't cancel it. They're like, no, you can. You booked it this way. Here's the policy. And I was like, okay. And I got a full refund. And it was just some little quirk of how this airline was, handled its, you can cancel up until departure time, which is after the time when they close the gate. So I had about 2 minutes to spare before I would have lost most of my airline miles, because a lot of them were on this next couple flights. And I was like, I really didn't like working on data compression, but I really like working on these travel tools. So I want to see how far I can take this. So that's what I've been building full time for the last 6 months. And it's interesting because I've never worked this hard before. I thought I worked hard at Microsoft. I work harder now. And it's really interesting. It's just it's a different way of being. I'm trying to give this experience to everyone else, which is wherever you go, it's sort of like the type A friends already figured it out for you.
Nice.
So you can be a little more type B, but
I really appreciate that as a traveler, especially very recently. I was also using AI when I was at the airport, and they kind of just dropped me off my second leg. And I'm like, I'm still here. I still want to get there, help. And then I was just kind of doing the same thing. Like, how do I navigate this? What do I do? How do I get compensated in some way for it? And sure enough, it worked. So I love that you're building that tool. Is it something people can access now? Or is it?
There's a wait list right now
Okay.
as we're scaling up, but you can put your name down, and you'll be getting an invite pretty soon.
Sure. Awesome. I'm going to make sure I certainly get that address and put it in any show notes we have there. So you talked a lot about just kind of doing, even though you're nervous, even though you sat there the next day, you still took step one to do that thing. I have a lot of people who, especially after being laid off, feeling paralyzed a little bit on what is that next step, and often getting in the rut of, I just need to apply. And you looked at your circumstance and said, I'm nervous, not sleeping, but I'm still going to do the thing. So I'd love to hear, coach my audience a little bit on fear and how how do you get past it? Because I know it's not gone if you're still in this phase of building. I'm right there with you in my own little thing, so I know it's not gone.
I think the thing that people really need to remember, and what helped me in these times, was that there's certain things in your life that you're going to keep coming back to, and you need to listen to them. So for me, it was I need to build something that's my own. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't ready to do that when I quit. I was kind of ready. I was still curious about the technology and learning things, but I think I needed to listen to other things too. So for me, it was, I want to have this connection with nature. And I think what you have to do is you have to do something that is drawing you in, but is also scaring you. Mm-hmm. Because I think it's hard for you to make these bigger steps if you can't do something, if you have to remind yourself that the fear is just that, and really examine it and question it. I think it's questioning your fear, because it seems like, I don't know, it's just so hard to explain why I was so afraid of some of those things a year ago. Like, I remember being so afraid of just being in like a big, like a really big Asian city like Tokyo, like because it's so different than the places I've been before. Like, I was really drawn to this sort of like the bustle of a place like Tokyo or Bangkok, um, and but I also was like, I'm kind of introverted in a way, and I don't know that I would actually be able to handle that. And like, what if nobody speaks English? And like, these are all things that like I know aren't a problem, and like I knew then weren't a problem. But that was something that was both really scary to me and really exciting to me. Um, I think people who are stuck, there's something in their life that is really drawing them in, and they got to do it. They have to do it, because why do something? Why not do the thing that you want to do? Like, everything that you think's really scary is probably not as scary as you think it is. Um, and the thing is, conversely, the thing that's really exciting to you is probably even more exciting than you realize. Like, I can't explain to you how amazing it felt to be under the ice and having these penguins just like rocketing by, to see like, a humpback whale and their calf just like, coming up through the water, um, to, see like orcas that are even bigger than the ones in the Puget Sound, just like going by the boat. Like, these are just like, I mean, I don't know, not, I mean, I think Anthony Bourdain said this, maybe there's a way of looking at your own backyard that is, very compelling, that, it's just a sense of perspective that you need to bring to your own environment.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you got to get out there. Like, travel means different things for different people, but a lot of your habits are probably tied to where you're at right now. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that you're going to benefit more from going out and going someplace new than you realize. And I don't know what that is for you. I don't know if it's seeing the some of the great ballets in Europe, or it's hiking the Appalachian Trail, or it's seeing a baby humpback whale in the South Pacific with its mom. Like, whatever that is for you, I guarantee you there's a less expensive way of doing it than you think, and it is absolutely worth it. And I I I just can't implore you enough
Mm-hmm.
to go out and
Do the thing.
just go.
Yeah, I love that you said, and I hear it a lot with people, is just do the thing. And I learned from, my own therapy journey, is that our brain's just trying to keep us alive, right? So that new thing is extra scary because we haven't done it before, and our brain's like, going under ice is not safe. And then the more we do those things, the more our brain calms down, because it has the data that we didn't die. So like, it's okay. Maybe that's not as bad as I thought it was, and it's building those new pathways and all those things. So I loved your advice of just do the thing, and also that it's not as scary as it may seem. And I loved your twist of it's also probably more exciting than you imagine as well. So that's
But conversely, to the more it's more exciting than you think, there's going to be a period between when you're excited about it initially and you actually go and do it, where you're like, why am I doing this thing? It's really expensive. It's going to be really uncomfortable sitting on that flight. Um, and who knows if they accept my, whatever card there. And you're going to be like, this is kind of dumb. And it's this middle period that I think is kind of an unexpected challenge that a lot of people aren't ready for. Even if they sign up for the trip, they have to have a little bit of faith in that middle period when it hasn't happened yet, and they're just thinking about how scary it is to actually go and do the thing. because once you do it, it is worth it.
Mhm. I feel like you're even giving advice on the startup journey too, right? Is just did the thing, and you're building the list, right, of people who want to try and the waiting list and whatnot. And that's kind of almost exactly, it seems like where you would be in the journey. Is that accurate to say you're kind of in the excitement, but not there yet?
I think I'm definitely in the bit of a faith part of it,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like I know that this is what I want to do intellectually. Day to day, I'm a little bit like, oh my God, I'm pouring a lot into this.
Yes.
Like, like, I mean, if I wanted to just pour this much analytical, just life into something, I mean, it's a little hard to find a job right now, but someone could be paying me for it. I'm
Right.
not getting paid for this. And I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, but I'm telling myself, and I think that this podcast here is so important because, I am in the middle of this right now, and I don't know if I could even tell this story in a year once I've gone through it. But I can tell it right now, and I don't know how this turns out. I don't know. Like, it was really exciting at the beginning. Right now, it's just really hard. And I think I kind of am just going to continue feeling that way until it's shipping to more than just the test users that I have right now. And I imagine that's going to be painful because, your baby is like maybe not being appreciated. But
Right.
um, I think I'm doing this the right way. I think a lot of people who could be building their own thing aren't doing it because they're waiting for something, either whether that's seed funding or whatever, just something to make themselves feel more ready. I was waiting for that for a long time. I think I was waiting for some stamp mark of being like this guy's the real deal. Um, you know, Therefore he will have total success in whatever he does. But nobody ever gives you that stamp, or at least if they do, you probably shouldn't believe it. Because like, I don't know, it's like, I meat a lot of people who are starting their own startups, and they're just like, I'm just going to keep working my job until I get, into Y Combinator, or until I get a big angel investment from Bill Gates. I'm just sort of thinking to myself, where it's just sort of just like, yeah, but if it's what you want to do, like, I'm pretty sure there's a way you can do it. Like, you don't have to wait for someone to give you permission.
Mhm.
Like, life doesn't have to be that expensive. And, we're part of a very privileged class of people that have probably saved some money. So, you know, what are you waiting for?
Yes. You see, I'm going to finish this and I'll be like, oh, well, in addition to all these things that I'm working on, I should probably, because I always have my ideas, right? This one, and I have to be careful not to chase the shiny objects nonstop and not finish the ones I'm working on. That's really the kicker in that statement, is I must finish my current thing before I chase the next shiny thing. So, um, yeah, I imagine that's even with your app that you're building, is as you're getting off the ground, it has this basic MVP functionality, but you probably see all this of where it can go and where you want it to be and all the features that yet to be implemented and all of that. So it's as you mentioned, you're kind of in that messy middle of
I kind of have a little it's a funny way, because obviously, like, I wish that um I'd been able to, I don't know, do more at Microsoft, but it gives me a little bit of respect for actually probably how tough it is to be a big company, because now I'm just like, okay, this feature is compelling, I'm going to do it. And like, well, it means I can't do the other feature right now. So like, that prioritization is something that I think gets abstracted away from you oftentimes in corporate. Like, you're like, the VP said no. Oh well. But now you have to take that on all yourself. You're in charge of everything.
yes.
And it's really exhilarating, but it's also it's different. Like, I wonder if like the US used to be more like this, like more people had their own businesses.
Mhm.
It wasn't as centralized in a lot of these companies. Well, not always. I mean, Standard Oil was pretty big, but I just got the sense that a lot more people had their own businesses. But
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe right now is maybe some people have the opportunity to start their own things now. It's a different technology world than it was 5
Yeah,
years
it
ago.
really is. Especially because you do have like that digital expert who can help you navigate things. For me, it was just, okay, I want to start my LLC. What paperwork do I need to file? And I was like, I need it in checklist format. And then I went and read the link. I always ask for references and links so I can go read it myself, right? But I was like, okay, I think this looks good. This looks great. But that's the side of starting something new that would make me so nervous is what if I miss the check boxes of running the business itself? And I think that people do need to realize that the tools are so much more advanced and you can use AI certainly to get you started. And this is where I caveat validate the answer you got, make sure it's the right thing. But I was able to integrate my website into YouTube videos so the podcast can now show them. People can watch it from my website. I had no idea how to do that, but AI did. And it helped me get all of the steps done and it works. And then I did a happy dance because I'm like, wow, that's not something that would have taken me a week or two in before these tools came out. So encourage people. Tools are out there to go do your thing.
Yeah, or maybe they will be soon.
Where they will be soon.
I think I mean, kind of on the AI point, like I have this really kind of personal connection with sort of feeling like this new technology has enabled me to do something that I wouldn't have been able to do prior.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one thing that's really tough for a lot of people who are in corporate jobs right now is that it's kind of getting shoved down their throats in a really bad way.
Mm-hmm.
At least where I used to work,
Mm-hmm.
they did I think a 25% layoff of my org. And the stated reason from the VP to the remaining employees was those employees didn't use enough AI. This was a product management org. I'm like, I don't think AI is that great at some of those tasks. I think it can be,
Mm-hmm.
but it's
It's
not.
not there yet. Yeah.
And I'm talking to all these coworkers who are just who I know are just absolutely brilliant, and they're really cynical now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't know. I kind of wonder if the only reason I can build what I'm building right now is because I believe it's a good thing,
Mm-hmm.
and that it can really empower people.
Right.
But when you're stuck in that situation in a lot of these companies, I think the really logical conclusion you would draw is that it's a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think it's a little bit of like this, just like how being inside of the company skews your perspective. I don't really know what that means, but it's just something I've been noticing a lot recently.
Mm-hmm.
Like now that I've been in Seattle more because I was traveling so much, just talking to people, and like, I don't know. I think that, I don't know, maybe you're not being as well served in your job as you think you are. I don't know.
I think it's almost that forced aspect too of, you must use it. You must use it. And I don't know if you see it, but being away from that you must use it to I get to use it changes the perspective on the excitement around it. And now it's like I advocate even more for using it. And this could tie to maybe it makes a difference when you're passionate about what you're working on. And therefore it's exciting and you see how it does launch you into that next, okay, I don't have time for this busy work over here. Help me get it done so that I can really cast a vision to see where we're going, to prioritize and see what can be done, what needs to be done first. So maybe that's the disconnect, is a little bit of the you must versus you get to.
I guess that's just a lack of agency.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of goes back to the beginning of our conversation on what we see we could do or could have done in those corporate jobs, and then where limits were put. And then if we're both entrepreneurial mindset, it's even harder because it's like, but I see this grand vision and it will just take all these things. And if it's deprioritized or not valued, then it's like, okay, well, I'll go do this thing. So anyway, I guess we could probably philosophize all day on these various things. Maybe that's a whole nother podcast. Like we'll do.
Yeah, maybe we'll do it in a year. I think
We'll
that
do it in a year to hear your
there's some
success
things
story.
changing right now, and it's going to be very different in a year.
Yes, it will. So with that, I always ask people, is there anything I didn't bring up or ask you about that you wish I would have? And it's okay if the answer is no. Then it means I'm like, yeah, I covered all the bases. But is there anything you'd love to just chime in? Last words, last advice?
I think it's really just because the number of people who have reached out to me just for advice, just know that like a lot of people are really struggling right now,
Mhm.
and you're definitely not alone in this.
Right.
I feel like one thing I feel kind of bad at in this podcast is that I think I'm feeling better, so it's kind of harder for me to remember even how rough
Mhm.
it was. And I kind of wish that I could maybe have had this podcast 6 months ago, even because I mean, I definitely could not have done it 6 months ago, but I just, it's really rough. And, but it was temporary, or at least that phase.
Yeah.
Now I'm in a new phase. It's also stressful. Um,
The ever rolling ball of this is different, and now I don't know what to do.
but I guarantee you that if you do the thing, it's going to be so worth it.
Mhm. I love to say that I try to do the thing so that I never have to sit around and wonder what would have happened if I had done the thing. Because I feel like that's a different sort of uh, agony that I bring to myself is that, well, what if I had? What if I had? And I feel compelled to answer those questions an awful lot. So,
Yeah. And I guess maybe one thing I would leave this on is that if you ever wanted to visit the Amazon rainforest and see like all of these Amazon creatures like caimans and stuff, shockingly cheap, like a week in an Ecuadorian rainforest lodge is like $400.
nice.
So maybe just do that.
Sure. So that leads me into the last bit is how do people get in touch with you? How do they find your the waiting list or the interest list? Is it you want people to reach out on LinkedIn? You have a website? How do I send people to be part of what you're doing?
I might live to regret this, but just email me.
Okay.
Jonathon, Jonathon at wanderfugel.com, WANDERFUGL.com. Probably going to regret listing this. But
I say to do these things when audiences are small. So maybe like it'll be a bit before my audience is so big that you regret it. So, but here we are.
yeah,
I always say you never know when that when something will actually be the thing that takes off. So I hope that's for you. And then if it's too much, you can build a landing page and then send them back there. So,
well, thank you
uh,
so much, Jacqueline. This has
yes,
been a
thank
really
you.
great conversation.
Yeah, it's been fun. Thank you so much for that. I love your story. I hope I can have you back in a year and we can play clips of like this in the middle of it. And then you can say, oh, yeah, I did feel that way. And now look at this. So, all of the best in your journey. And thank you for being here.
Thank you. I really look forward to that. And yeah, thank you so much, Jacqueline.
I look forward to using your app. It sounds amazing.
I feel well, oh God, I got to finish all the features now.
Nothing like a little healthy pressure, right?
Yeah, well, it's really great. So
Yeah, I can't wait to
thank
see
you.
it. All right. Thank you again. And I look forward to the next time we can talk.
Well, thanks. And bye.